baby. And he has the hiccups. He always has the hiccups. What are you going to do? He's the chillest ferret in the world. What are you going to do? We both just want head scratches and belly rubs. That's the only thing that really matters. Alright, so, Akadua. I've always talked about it, not always, but for a very long time I talk about it. I talk about especially the varieties of Akadua in terms of the chakras. And I just wanted to hit this point for people who are starting out working with the Akadua, or for people who are interested in learning about the Akadua. I never intended to mislead people in that. I always try to tell people that the variety which correlates to a specific chakra is not the chakra, and that variety can exist independently anywhere. The way I look at it, the varieties are simply refractory expressions of the one Akadua, which resides in your body. And the way I look at it, the chakras are the best way to think about those refractory expressions coming out of the body. So you have the one Akadua, and then it is expressed differently according to the lens through which you put it. You know, like a prism, we are the prism. That prism is our body, and then you shine the one single white light through the prism, and it splits off into many different colors. And those are the varieties of the Akadua. It's that simple. However, they can exist anywhere. And so it's true, but it's not true. You know, that's the way it splits off, and so that's what we're capable of expressing. That's what our bodies can express, I suppose. But you don't have to channel the Akadua through a specific chakra to get that variety. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's not what I ever intended anyone to believe or attempt. You can. And to be quite honest with you, when I do it myself, because I can express the Akadua through any part of my body that I want to, that's usually how I activate a certain variety. I just think about it, because if I want to activate atmospheric, it loosely relates to the third eye. That's the expression of it. Then I'm just going to feel my third eye and activate the Akadua there. And it really does work with that particular vibration. Okay, it works with that particular vibration. So if I'm activating atmospheric anywhere, it's going to calm my mind. That's the first thing that I notice about it. All right. If I activate it in my mind, in my third eye, where it hooks up, the vibrations are similar or whatever, then it's really going to calm my mind. And so there's no reason that I have a strong relationship to the chakras, and so I'll think about that chakra, I'll feel that chakra, and then I'll think about the Akadua, I'll feel the Akadua, activate it with the feeling. It's all one thing, you know. It's not like I go, okay, now I'm going to think about this, now I'm going to think about that. It's all just one impulse, you know, one act of will, activating the Akadua with the third eye chakra, atmospheric, all of that stuff is in there, in that one act of will, you know. And then that's all you're concentrating on. And then as you're doing that, you really feel it start to expand. So that's just a model, though. And I don't want anyone to think that there's a lot of things that you could think that would be mostly incorrect. Like, if you have a lot of blockages in your second chakra, I don't want you to think that the expression of lunar Akadua is going to be somewhat muddied. You know what I mean? I don't want to give anyone that impression. Because by all means, if you have blockages and you can feel those blockages in any of your chakras and you have the Akadua and you're working with it, keep working with it, you know? Just push the Ikadowa through that and see what happens, you know. There's something else which is more difficult to describe. And I really thought I had this squared away with myself, and then I know this. I've always known this, and yet I had a friend ask me a question, and I was like, oh, I should probably make that clear. And it ties into what I was saying before about the chakras and the varieties. He was asking, should I start with the denser varieties first? Because when you're working on yourself, you know, you can start with the higher, lighter chakras, the higher vibrations, the higher frequencies, and then work your way down. Or you can start from the bottom where it's really, really dense and just try to loosen everything up and then work your way up. You know, like either way is appropriate. One might be a better approach for you personally, depending on your personal makeup or what type of problems you have, you know, or you can just attack a specific set of chakras individually. But to hit them all is always a good idea. You know, you want to cover all of your bases, so you want to hit all of your chakras with whatever type of work you're doing. And sometimes I'm like, well, should I end the lower ones because I really want to keep myself grounded? Or maybe I'm having trouble with, you know, perceiving the higher, lighter frequencies and the spiritual stuff, and I feel like that's kind of blocked, so maybe I'll end with those. You know, it doesn't really matter. It just depends on you. But then when you take the Akadowa varieties, the densities don't necessarily match up with the chakras in order. So when you say lunar and the second chakra, those correspond to each other roughly. Lunar to me is nothing really like, I mean, it is like an expression of the second chakra, and yet the second chakra is pretty murky for most people. It's the second chakra. It's pretty dense. You know, it has to do with movement and sexuality and our physical connection to other things and guilt, you know, and all that kind of stuff as a negative trait. So when you think about the Ikadowa variety, which is lunar, there are certain aspects of it that make sense. It is magnetic. It pulls things in. It's feminine. It's got this sexy undercurrent, you know. The energy feels that way to me. It can be creative, but in a sort of yin in the background kind of way, feeding creative energy, not like the male kind of energy, but just the, you know, in the background doing its thing until it's ready to express itself in another form. And there are aspects that are not like the second chakra at all, because you're talking about a pretty dense chakra. You're talking about a dense area of the body where there are a lot of energy points, and so it can become very difficult to work with that chakra for some people because there's a lot of stuff down there that we have to deal with, okay? And the expression of the Ikadowa is extremely light. It's extremely not dense. It's airy, it's cool, it's very lunar. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just very lunar, you know. It's very light and all of that. So I suppose I could do another example. No, I don't know. I think that pretty much sums it up. You know, it's just they're not the same thing. The chakras and the energy of the chakras, the frequency, vibration, whatever, density or lack thereof of the chakras, and the varieties of the Ikadowa, which roughly correlate to those chakras, are not the same thing, you know? And I don't want people to think that they are. It's just a model to use because most people are familiar with the chakras by now, you know? Most people know, oh, okay, yeah, this is what it is, and this is what they roughly mean, and I understand that the energy down here is a slower vibration, and it's harder to work with, and then as you get up, they spin faster and faster and faster, and they're a little easier to affect, you know? And the Ikadowa is still mysterious to most people, and they don't know that, so I just try to use that as a model. But it is just a model. It's just a map, you know? So I don't want anyone to get completely confused. I hope I haven't confused you more. But the varieties can be independent of all of that. I can express it and not really have it coming from myself, but I'm, giving it to someone who's in Canada, and that's a beautiful thing, and it's completely long distance, it's remote. I don't necessarily see like this huge, wave of a Kadua physically moving to that person. I'm just causing it to appear where she is, and work on that person that way. That's how all long distance or remote energy healing really works. You're using your mind to cause that energy to appear over there, and so I don't think that I have to necessarily project it through a certain chakra to get a certain variety or whatever. It can be completely independent of that system. But again, it's a model, it helps us understand, and those energies are good to work with those specific chakras. Those varieties of the Akadwa are good to work with the specific chakras to which they correlate. So I just throwing it out there. More information. If you have any questions, let me know.